although I'm not ready to cut the dovetails yet, I am ready to start laying them out. Working on the back first. That's going to be a little bit easier since on the back of the organizer, the full length of each piece is corresponding. They're each going to each side is going to be used, whereas on the front, it's going to be a little bit different in that I've got about 2 inches on the bottom that are not going to be dovetailed. And I just realized I made a mistake because I was laying things out and I put the same measurements on the front as I did the back, which wasn't going to work because this section down here does not get dovetailed. That's where the draw is going to go. So what we've done so far, I made a 2-scale model just to see how I want it to look, and I'm thinking 4 dovetails are going to look best on the back. I'm thinking 2 up front, but I haven't really laid that one out yet. The lines here, let's see if I can get it. So this is the actual size. All I did was I just took the piece and laid it all out. And yeah, now I'm seeing why some of my measurements were a little bit off, but now because I messed that up. But I wanted 4 equal spacings, and I drew this diagonal line because from here to here was not an evenly distributed amount. So this line here is 8 inches, and then if you go and you do every 2, I get the 4 that I'm looking for. And it came out a little bit different because I'm realizing just now as I'm making the video that I used the wrong side. That's the length. I should have gone like that to get a more accurate representation. But as I'm looking, I've got the two tails in the middle are a little bit wider, and as I'm looking at it, I kind of like it, so I'm just gonna go with it. I think it looks pretty good. So now we have to, like I did here, this line represents, that line represents the thickness of this piece. I'll show you that in a second. These are the lines representing the dovetails, and those are not arbitrary. Well, I guess in the way they are, but they're also traditional. Couple of ways to measure them out. One of the things I love about woodworking and hand tools is that I can make things customized to exactly like I want. This box is something I made a while ago. The 2 sides are one thickness, back is another thickness, and the front piece is actually even another thickness. But when that comes out, it's perfectly sized for what I wanted to keep in here. And what I have in here are a couple of what we call dovetail templates, different sizes. I made these a little while ago. And with the glare, let's see, we got 1 in 8, 1 in 7, 1 in 6. Traditionally, I'm gonna get rid of that one for 1 second. Traditionally, if you were making dovetails in softwoods, we would make the dovetails a 1 in 6 pitch, which means the angle is a lot more severe, because the softwoods would have a tendency to compress. So you wanted the angle of the tail to be greater, so that way there'd be more force from, when you have the tail, you want it there to be force pulling on like a drawer or something. A hardwood does not have the same flexibility as a softwood, pine or something like that. So they would use a 1 in 8 pitch. And you can see I'm going to line up the bottom, that's square, but the tops are different angles. The 1 in 8 is what I'm using on here. And I made the 1 in 7 because I had a 1 in 8 and 1 in 6, and it just completed the set. And my original one, the one I made years ago when I first started getting into woodworking, was a 1 in 7, just to cover all bases, although I hardly ever use that anymore. I either use the 1 or the 2. Can also use a sliding bevel gauge, which matches that angle. But this thing it's a bit cumbersome when you're working on a half inch piece of wood. So we're going to use the dovetail template. I do have I did take the time to lay out on here what I'm going to have. So next thing I do, I just marked it so that way I know that this was the outside, that's the top. I'm working on here, which is going to be the back, and my little triangle on the top is telling me that this piece is going to go like this. I want all of my markings to be on the outside because that's what I'm going to look at when I'm cutting the dovetails. I don't really care much about the inside, so much so that I can make any kind of mark I want on the outside because I'm going to have to plane this up to make the box look nice at the end. The inside, not so much. So like any cleanup, if there's tear out, sanding is all going to get done on this before I fit it all together, because I don't want to change the dimensions of the inside of the box once the joinery is cut, because then the joints are going to get thrown off. The outside is fine because I'm going to go around and plane it all anyway. Not as concerned. I can make any mark I want on here, so the marking's all going to get done on this side. So normally I would work with a nice sharp pencil, but hard to see pencil on here, even for me, and I'm standing right up close. So I'm going to line this up with my fingers. I'm lining the outside of the box, and I'm not going to run a full line. I'm just going to put a little mark, and I'm going to take my square and do that. And I've got a reference edge, and I'm putting it on the wrong side, on camera. So I'm just going to mark it. And again, I'm not too worried about the mark that I made accidentally because I was going to plane it off anyway. So that marks that. I am looking for what I had as the reference edge, and I generally use the top as my reference edge, just so that way it stays consistent. So again, that's going to represent the line that I have to cut down to take this piece when the time comes. I am going to use this two sides. Well, there's two sides to the dovetail template. They each have the same 1:8 pitch. The bottom, that should be 90 degrees, which I don't use that side as much, but I can. So what I'm going to do is line up and draw the lines. And let's see here. So do that one. I'm going to skip over. I'm going to come to this one here. Skip over the next one, come to here. And the most important angle when it comes to doing the dovetails is not the angled one I'm laying out now. It's the straight across ones that are really important. All right, so I did that. Now I'm going to flip the dovetail template over so that way I'm working off of the other angle. And excuse my head, but I do need to get in there to see what I'm doing. And if these are a little off, I can always just go parallel to it. I do not have to cut to these lines specifically. Okay. All right. And one more. All right, so I'm a little off on one or two of them, but what I'm also going to do, I'm going to put an X. I'm going to put an X, 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 because you've already seen me make at least one mistake on here. I'm going to try to do everything in my power to make sure I don't do it again. And the X's are what is essentially what's coming out. Some people put a little squiggle right in there, or a little squiggle, so that way they know that's what's coming out. When I'm lining up the saw to make those cuts, I'm going to always cut on the waist side of the line. So that means I'm going to cut on this side of this line. I'm going to cut on this side of that line, that side of this line, etc., because that's where the waist is, and I can take more of that out. So what I want is left in between. Cutting them will be next, but I think I'm going to lay out the other dovetails first, so that way it's just all batched out, and it'll be the same thing, except I'm going to figure out exactly, and I'm looking at the triangles to figure out how I want it. So this is going to go up here. I've got to figure out the layout now from this point to the top, how I want it to look. I think I'm going to go to maybe, now that I'm looking at it, maybe 3, but I'm going to draw it out and see what I think works best. And then we'll take it from there. But that is how that is how we lay it out. You notice I don't put anything in the back again because I don't have anything to clean up. But when I'm cutting it, it's going to be in the vise like this. I'm going to cut, and I can't see what's, but you can see it. I can't see what's back here when I'm sawing here, so I only really care about what's here. Like I say, and I'll talk about this again later. Following these lines that are 90 degrees to the edge, that is the most important angle when cutting the dovetails, and hopefully today I'll be getting to doing that.